Welcome to Whispered Tales. Today we explore the story of learning to focus in a world full of distractions. Follow along as we journey through the challenges of attention, self-discipline, and discovering inner clarity. Ethan Parker stared at his computer screen, the cursor blinking on a blank document as a million thoughts fought for his attention. Notifications from his phone buzzed incessantly. Emails demanded instant replies, and social media constantly tugged at the corners of his mind. He had promised himself he would work on his personal project today. Yet the distractions seemed endless, and the weight of unfinished tasks made him anxious. He realized that the problem wasn't just time, it was focus. Somewhere along the line, he had allowed his attention to be pulled in every direction, leaving him feeling scattered, overwhelmed, and frustrated. For years, Ethan had believed that multitasking was the key to productivity. He juggled work assignments, side projects, and constant social interactions, thinking he was achieving more. But now he understood the truth. Trying to do everything at once had left him doing nothing fully. The constant noise of the modern world, the pings, the alerts, the demands, had dulled his ability to concentrate. He wanted focus, clarity, and a sense of purpose, but he didn't know where to start. The task seemed monumental, but Ethan decided he needed a plan, a way to reclaim his attention in a world designed to steal it. He began by creating small, deliberate rituals. First, he set boundaries with his devices. Notifications were silenced, apps were limited to essential use, and he designated blocks of time for emails and messages. At first, it felt uncomfortable, almost as if the world outside was screaming at him, demanding that he pay attention. But gradually, Ethan noticed that the silence brought a strange relief. Without the constant interruptions, his mind began to settle, and he could focus on a single task at a time. It wasn't magic, but discipline, and that was more powerful than he had imagined. Next, he discovered the importance of environment. Ethan rearranged his workspace, clearing clutter, organizing materials, and adding small elements that inspired calm. A potted plant, a scented candle, and a notebook for spontaneous thoughts. He realized that focus wasn't just a mental skill, it was also shaped by the space around him. The cleaner, quieter, and more intentional his surroundings became, the easier it was to immerse himself in deep work. He also began taking short breaks between tasks, walking around, stretching, or simply observing the world outside his window. These moments of pause rejuvenated his mind, allowing him to return to his work with renewed energy. Ethan quickly learned that staying focused was not about eliminating distractions entirely, it was about managing them and training his mind to prioritize what mattered most. He started setting clear goals for each day, breaking large projects into smaller, achievable steps and celebrating small victories along the way. Slowly, he felt the fog in his mind lift. He was no longer overwhelmed by the endless pull of distractions. Instead, he experienced the satisfaction of completing tasks, the calm of sustained attention, and the quiet joy of progress. For the first time in months, he felt in control of his mind rather than at the mercy of the world around him. As days turned into weeks, Ethan realized that cultivating focus was as much about understanding himself as it was about managing external distractions. He began observing his own habits, how certain tasks energized him while others drained him, how scrolling through social media left him restless, and how working in short bursts helped him retain concentration. This self-awareness became his secret weapon. By identifying patterns and triggers that disrupted his attention, he could adjust his routines, create more productive habits, and design his environment to support deep work rather than sabotage it. One afternoon, Ethan tried something new. He blocked off an entire morning for uninterrupted work, putting his phone in another room, closing all unnecessary browser tabs, and letting a single playlist of instrumental music fill the room. At first, his mind rebelled, flitting from thought to thought like a butterfly. He felt the familiar urge to check messages, glance at notifications, or revisit unfinished tasks. But he resisted. He focused on the first small step of his project, completing it fully before moving on. By midday, he felt a sense of flow he hadn't experienced in months, the kind of absorption where hours pass unnoticed and the mind feels fully alive.
Ethan also learned the importance of mental clarity. He began meditating for 10 minutes each morning, using the practice to observe his thoughts without judgment. He discovered that distractions often gained power because he chased them, reacted to them, or let them linger in his mind. Meditation didn't remove the distractions, it gave him the ability to acknowledge them, release them, and redirect his attention back to what mattered. Over time, this daily practice strengthened his focus, increased his patience, and allowed him to approach tasks with a calmer, more intentional mindset. Another breakthrough came when Ethan started prioritizing his energy, not just his time. He realized that some tasks required peak mental energy, while others could be done during low focus periods. By aligning demanding tasks with moments when he felt most alert and creative, and leaving routine or less critical work for quieter times, he became far more efficient. He also noticed that adequate rest, healthy meals, and brief physical activity played a crucial role in maintaining attention. Focus, he learned, wasn't just a skill, it was a lifestyle, intertwined with self-care and balance. By the end of the week, Ethan felt a profound shift in his daily life. He was no longer at the mercy of constant interruptions, digital noise, or mental clutter. Instead, he was cultivating an inner rhythm, a steady flow that allowed him to engage deeply with work, ideas, and personal growth. The sense of control he gained didn't just improve his productivity, it transformed his relationship with himself. He began to see focus not as a chore, but as a powerful tool for creating meaning, achieving goals, and living intentionally. Ethan soon discovered that staying focused wasn't just about removing distractions, it was about cultivating presence. He began practicing the art of single tasking, dedicating himself entirely to one task at a time, rather than dividing his attention among multiple projects. At first, it felt almost unnatural. Years of multitasking had trained his brain to flit between tasks, seeking stimulation and novelty. But the more he committed to one task, the more he noticed the depth of understanding, creativity, and satisfaction that emerged. Completing a task fully brought a sense of accomplishment that half-hearted effort could never provide. He also experimented with setting clear intentions before each work session. Instead of approaching the day with vague goals like "get stuff done," he wrote down specific objectives: complete the first draft of a report, finish coding a module, or revise a design layout. By being precise about what he wanted to achieve, Ethan noticed that his mind naturally resisted distractions, almost as if it recognized the clarity of purpose. Even when notifications appeared or thoughts wandered, he could gently remind himself of the intention he had set, redirecting his attention without frustration.
Reduce noise. Ethan realized that managing focus also involved embracing structure. He implemented time-blocking techniques, scheduling periods of deep work, short breaks, and leisure. During work blocks, he removed all potential interruptions. During breaks, he allowed himself freedom to stretch, walk, or breathe. This balance prevented mental fatigue and maintained sustained attention throughout the day. It was a delicate rhythm, one he had to experiment with and adjust, but it gradually became second nature. With each successful day, he felt more in command of his mind and more capable of tackling complex challenges. Another key realization was that focus thrived on passion and curiosity. Ethan noticed that the more he genuinely cared about a task, the easier it was to remain present. Mundane tasks required extra effort, but by reframing them in terms of learning, growth, or long-term benefits, he could engage his attention more fully. He discovered that intrinsic motivation, working for purpose and interest rather than obligation, was far more powerful than any external discipline. Tasks became opportunities to explore, learn, and stretch his capabilities, rather than chores that drained him. By the end of the week, Ethan felt a profound change. Focus had become a skill, a habit, and a mindset. He no longer felt overwhelmed by the noise of the modern world. Instead, he was equipped to navigate it with clarity and intention. The satisfaction of finishing tasks fully, the calm of uninterrupted work, and the joy of meaningful progress transformed his life. He understood that in a world designed to distract, true focus was not a gift. It was a deliberate, cultivated practice that required patience, awareness, and self-discipline. Ethan soon realized that mental clarity and focus were deeply connected to his emotional state. Stress, anxiety, and unresolved worries were powerful distractions, often pulling his attention away from what truly mattered. To address this, he began dedicating time each morning to mindfulness exercises, breathing techniques, short meditations, and mental check-ins. By noticing his thoughts without judgment and acknowledging his feelings, he created a mental space where focus could flourish. The simple act of pausing and grounding himself before tackling work made each session more productive and less draining. He also learned the importance of intentional boundaries. Ethan started saying no to unnecessary commitments that didn't align with his priorities. Invitations, tasks, and social obligations that once felt obligatory now received careful consideration. He realized that every yes came with a cost, attention, and energy, and that protecting his focus was a form of self-respect. This practice didn't make him selfish. It made him efficient, present, and able to give his best to the things that truly mattered. Each boundary he set became a small act of empowerment, reinforcing his control over his own mind.
Technology, which had been both a tool and a tormentor, was now under Ethan's command. He implemented strict schedules for email, social media, and messaging apps, checking them only during designated times. He turned off unnecessary notifications and created deep work zones where his devices were out of reach. Initially, the silence felt strange, even uncomfortable, but soon he discovered a calm he hadn't experienced in years. With fewer distractions competing for his attention, He could immerse himself fully in his work, and the results were tangible. Projects moved faster, ideas flowed more freely, and his confidence in his own capabilities grew. Ethan also experimented with natural rhythms, paying attention to his energy levels throughout the day. He noticed when he was most alert, creative, and focused, and reserved those periods for his most demanding tasks. Less critical work or routine activities were scheduled during lower energy periods. He paired this with adequate rest, balanced meals, and short physical exercises to keep his mind and body aligned. Over time, he realized that focus wasn't about willpower alone. It was about respecting his own body and mind, creating the conditions that allowed attention to thrive naturally. By the end of this chapter in his journey, Ethan felt a profound shift in his relationship with work and life. Focus was no longer a struggle or a source of frustration. It was a cultivated skill, a habit, and a mindset that empowered him to engage deeply with his goals. The constant pull of distraction still existed, but he no longer felt powerless. Instead, he approached each task with intention, presence, and clarity, understanding that in a distracted world, true attention was a rare and precious gift, one he had learned to give himself deliberately.
As Ethan continued practicing focus, he discovered that concentration wasn't just about productivity, it was about living intentionally. Each day, he became more aware of how fleeting attention could be, and how much power lay in directing it consciously. He noticed that even small, seemingly insignificant actions, like checking his phone mid-task or glancing at an email notification, had the power to derail hours of work. By catching himself in these moments and gently redirecting his attention, he strengthened his mental discipline. The act of noticing distractions without judgment became an essential part of his focus toolkit. He also embraced the idea that focus and creativity were intertwined. With fewer interruptions, his mind began generating new ideas and solutions with surprising ease. Tasks that had once felt monotonous now sparked curiosity, and projects he had delayed for months began moving forward steadily. Ethan realized that deep focus was a gateway to insight. It allowed him to engage fully with problems, notice patterns, and produce work that was thoughtful, meaningful, and precise. This realization made every effort to protect his attention feel worthwhile. Ethan further learned the importance of balance. Deep work required energy, and energy required care. He started taking short breaks for walks, stretching, or simply observing the world around him. These pauses didn't interrupt productivity, they enhanced it, allowing his mind to reset and return to tasks with renewed clarity. He also gave himself permission to step away from work completely during evenings, enjoying hobbies, spending time with friends, or simply relaxing. Focus, he realized, thrived in a life where rest and effort were in harmony. Over time, Ethan noticed a profound transformation in his daily experience. He was no longer at the mercy of constant notifications, endless scrolling, or the chaos of multitasking. Instead, he had cultivated a mind that could engage deeply, maintain clarity, and act with intention. This focus didn't just improve his work, it enriched his life, giving him a sense of control, satisfaction, and peace that he hadn't known before. He understood that in a world designed to distract, the ability to concentrate was a superpower built one deliberate choice at a time. By the end of this chapter, Ethan felt confident in his ability to navigate distractions with awareness and purpose. He realized that focus was a daily practice, a mindset, and a form of self-respect. Each intentional choice to stay present, complete a task fully, and protect his attention reinforced his capacity to live intentionally and achieve his goals. And, for the first time in years, he felt truly in command of his mind, aware that with patience, discipline, and awareness, he could thrive even amidst the chaos of a distracted world. Ethan finally understood that focus was more than a skill. It was a lifestyle. He no longer viewed distractions as unavoidable annoyances, but as signals to return to intention. Each day became an opportunity to practice mindfulness, to prioritize tasks that mattered, and to engage fully with the moment at hand. The constant pull of the outside world still existed, but it no longer controlled him. Instead, he approached work, personal projects, and life itself with a sense of calm determination, knowing that attention was a choice he could nurture and protect.
He noticed how this shift influenced every aspect of his life. Relationships improved because he could be fully present with friends and family. Hobbies became more fulfilling because he engaged with them wholeheartedly. Even simple routines, like cooking a meal or taking a walk, became moments of meditation and reflection. By valuing his attention, Ethan discovered a deeper satisfaction in life, one that wasn't dependent on external validation or constant stimulation. Focus, he realized, was a gift he could give himself every day. Ethan also embraced the reality that perfection wasn't the goal. There were still moments of distraction, times when his mind wandered or notifications lured him away. But instead of judging himself or feeling defeated, he gently redirected his attention back to the present task. He learned patience with himself and compassion for the process. This self-awareness created a sense of empowerment that made even challenging days manageable, and moments of deep focus more rewarding. By the end of his journey, Ethan had transformed not just his productivity, but his entire relationship with life. He had discovered that focus was not about eliminating the world. It was about finding clarity amidst it, maintaining presence amidst noise, and acting with intention despite constant distractions. Sitting at his desk one evening, watching the sunset filter through the window, he felt a quiet pride. He had learned that concentration was not a fleeting skill, but a lifelong practice, and one that could shape a life of purpose, calm, and meaningful accomplishment.
Thank you for watching Whispered Tales. If this story inspired you or helped you understand the power of focus in a distracted world, please like and subscribe. Next time, we'll bring you another story full of insight, hope, and practical lessons for everyday life. Remember, in a world full of noise, the greatest gift you can give yourself is your attention. Protect it, nurture it, and watch your life transform.